yesterday he had the chance to sit down with the Vice President of the United States after taking, I think, a 12-hour ride with him. Am I right, Pete?
That is exactly right. And no more powerful sound for my money than the sound of taps, and what an appropriate moment for that as well. Yes, right after the ceremony, I had a chance to sit down with the Vice President, fresh from his remarks, presiding over a powerful ceremony. We asked him about that ceremony, but also a few issues hitting here at home for the President and the Vice President. Here's a portion of the interview with Vice President Mike Pence yesterday. It isn't lost on me that today we're dropping off caskets instead of dropping bombs right now on that peninsula. Where are we in the progress toward that outcome? A great step today that is meaningful, but a lot of people will say, hey, they're still fueling and creating ICBMs. Where are we in getting to that ultimate goal?
Well, the only reason we're here today is because very early in our administration, President Trump took a strong stand and said that we would not tolerate the presence of nuclear weapons and missiles in the possession of North Korea that could threaten the United States or our allies. He took unprecedented steps to bring economic and diplomatic pressure to bear. And while many worried about that approach, what it did was bring North Korea to the negotiating table. And in that historic summit, he secured not just a commitment to bring our heroes home, which began today, but also a commitment to achieve the complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. And what I can tell you, Pete, is that we're continuing to work very diligently. The Secretary of State will be in the region again this week. Those negotiations and discussions are ongoing. As I said today, we saw this promise kept by North Korea as evidence of the progress that we are making, and we continue to remain hopeful that we will achieve the aim that's eluded the world for decades, a nuclear-free Korean Peninsula, and that will bring our boys home.
So you believe this is indicative of a process still very much on track?
We are very hopeful that in today's events there is further evidence that the promises made in Singapore by North Korea will be kept.
I want to turn to home for a second, though. The President spoke a lot recently about the potential for a shutdown if he doesn't get the funding for the wall. He said in March, I'll never again will I sign a budget that doesn't include funding for the wall. Will he truly, either before or after the election, shut the government down if he doesn't have the wall funded?
Well, I think it is very clear that from the campaign forward, President Trump has made it clear that a country without borders is not a country.
Some people say, though, he won't do it. He's bluffing.
Well, what I can promise you is that we're working with the Congress to make sure that we provide for the common defense, that we fund the government. There's a series of spending bills. But when it comes to border security, I know President Trump is prepared to take a strong stand and demand that this Congress respond to the American people, give us the funding to build a wall, to close those loopholes that are driving illegal immigration and human trafficking, support our border security, support organizations and agencies like ICE that are doing an incredible, courageous job across the country. And I expect the President's going to take that strong stand before the fall is out. With the economy going where it is, you've been in Congress since 2001. Have you seen an economy like this before? It really is extraordinary. I mean, I'll never forget on the campaign trail in 2016 in September when then candidate Donald Trump announced that we would have a national goal of 4% GDP growth in the economy, and it was rejected by virtually every pigs are going to fly economist in the country. And here we have, just last year, nearly 3% growth in the calendar year in our first year in office. And then thanks to the President's leadership and strong partners in Republican majorities in Congress, here we are the second quarter of this year, a 4.1% growth. And we think we're just getting started. When you see the tremendous increase in exports in the second quarter, when you see the tremendous increase in business investment, we see wages rising, I really do believe the best is yet to come. But it's all a result of the fact that President Trump has been working every day to keep his promises to the American people, to cut taxes, to roll back regulations, unleash American energy. And it's working, Pete.
You know, the vice president went on to talk as well about the pastor in Turkey still there under house arrest and how they're focused on bringing him back from a NATO ally. And also, as we talked about in the program already, the lack of coverage in the so-called mainstream media of this ceremony. So important to so many vets, to the progress on the Korean Peninsula, to keeping promises, yet unfortunately so many people not wanting to give credit to President Trump or Vice President Pence for making it happen. So more from that interview in the 8 o'clock hour of Fox and Friends, guys.
That's great.
Your show.
That's great, Pete. And of course, the Vice President was very clear that the welcome home ceremony that we saw yesterday got started with the June summit between our president and Kim Jong-un. And he said, you know, promise kept. And they remain hopeful that eventually it does lead to denuking the Korean Peninsula.
Yep.
That's right. It doesn't happen unless that meeting happens, and it's a good faith step. Now they're focused on the real verification of the denuclearization. Right. So this is a good step, but more to come.
Yeah, more to come, because satellite photos show they have not slowed down at all in missile manufacturing. So can't deny that. Thanks, Pete.
Thanks, Pete.